Hey guys, Larry the tractor guy here. I'm pulling into the shop this morning. Got a fan drive off of a 9530 for a customer that's got an oil leak, and we're going to rebuild this fan drive this morning, and then we'll be going back out later and putting it on. Got it all disassembled and ready for reassemble. Got my seals and my bushings here ready to go. Start bushing. One thing to pay close attention to is this union fitting. It's a new style union fitting now, and sometimes part of your leakage in a fan drive on these 30 series tractors could be this union leaking oil and not necessarily your seals. So pay particular attention to that. I like to replace that if at all possible. Put this thing together, turn this over, put the back seals in, put the inner seal in. There's something I like to do is install this outer dust seal after we assemble the sheave on the drive shaft, because it's very hard to install this seal now and take a chance on damaging the seal when we install the sheave on the shaft. You'll want to use a little bit of lubricate assembly grease to grease the seals during assembly. Make everything slide on nice and freely without damaging seals. So now we will install the outer seal. And remember, I was talking about installing the shaft prior to installing this outer seal to keep from damaging this outer seal during assembly. What I like to use is a nice flat punch. So now we will install this new union fitting that we were talking about earlier that could be a potential oil leak on this fan drive. Fortunately, they do send us an extra O-ring in the kit just in case we damage this O-ring, one of these two O-rings during assembly. Fancy little plastic shielding. Okay, we also have a spring that will go in first to help hold our union out against our snap ring. Okay, and there's our new snap ring, and then our fittings for our hoses. Install our spring, and we'll want to install this union, but we'll want to lube these O-rings a little bit with some lubricate. Is what I like to use. Okay, put a little lube in the fan drive shaft. Okay, and we'll put that in there and kind of do gently with it. And then we'll install our little protector sleeve. And if you look at this protector sleeve, it has a flat surface on one side of the half and a shoulder surface on the other half. And so they kind of fit together, sort of like that. Okay, and so we'll want to slip those in over the top of the union. Okay, and then we'll gently tap that union down. Now we'll install our snap ring to hold the union in place. Make sure that we have our union locked in place good. Make sure your snap ring is seated good in the snap ring groove. I think we're ready to go out and put this back on this 9530 tractor, and we'll take our new hoses and our fittings with us, and I'll catch up with you in a little while. We're out here on the job, and we got this tractor pulled in the barn and got things ready to go to install this fan drive, so we're going to get to work. But really important to remember is this little shim that goes in place. We'll want to put this on the fan drive prior to installing the fan drive into the bottom of the crankshaft. Also keep in mind that if we were replacing this damper pulley, we would want to align that prior to installing this fan drive, or to make it very difficult to install this fan drive. We won't get into that procedure today because we're not replacing the front crankshaft damper. So here's our fan drive, and we will run into the crankshaft there. Got my 6 cap screws here. Install those. We will install the rest of the components to this fan drive, and then we will bleed the fan drive. But also I want to show you a little bit about installing the drain hose and the hydraulic hose to the union. One thing to remember is always put the accessory belt on prior to installing your fan belt and your outer sheave and all, because you'll have to take everything apart again to install the accessory drive belt, which drives the alternator and the AC compressor. So we've got the hydraulic line kit connected to the fan drive now, and something I wanted to make mention of was this little drain hose. So basically, if the seals fail in the fan drive, this drain hose gives the oil a way to escape. So if we have a union failure or a seal failure in the fan drive, we're able to get rid of that oil and let it drain down, rather than getting oil all over our belts and all over our fan assembly and all over the engine on the tractor. And also how I've oriented the hydraulic line that sends pressure to the fan drive. We've got it there where we're not rubbing the fan drive, and then also got it in close enough to the fan drive that we don't make contact with the fan. So one quick mention about this drain hose and this hydraulic pressure hose for the fan drive, and I've seen this happen several times. This little bolt with the little hole in it is actually the drain hose for this fan drive assembly. Okay, this is a very small little bolt with these little plastic washers. Okay, and so all that really does is hold that drain hose in place in the center of that union, and so it doesn't have to be really super tight. I've seen a lot of these get broke off in a union because someone over tightened it. Well, now we're going to install the outer sheave of our driven fan assembly and install our belt. Our outer drive sheave is a little bit hard to line up because it's hard to hold in that position, and we also need to try to keep our belt somewhat loose when we're installing this outer sheave. Stick it in place. We want to turn this inside sheave just slightly to find one of our bolt holes to get it lined up. We want to try to tighten these 3 bolts as evenly as we can to make sure that this outer drive sheave is properly seated against the driven fan assembly shaft. And so what I like to do is kind of turn this and continue to work my belt into pulley and kind of make sure that I get that kind of seated in there evenly before we put the final torque on the outer driven fan shift. We'll hold the outer drive shift on one of these lugs with just a crescent wrench, works pretty good, so that we can torque those 3 center shift bolts. There's a 1/2 inch long ratchet, and tighten those outer bolts up, and I think the torque on those is somewhere around 85 foot-pounds, so I kind of know where that's at without a torque wrench, so we're not going to use a torque wrench today. And now we're going to install our fan hub. There's 2 different size bolts. There's a short bolt and a longer bolt. The longer bolt will bolt the fan to the fan hub. The shorter bolt will bolt the hub to the inner shift or outer shift of the driven fan assembly. I've seen that happen a lot of times. These bolts get mixed up. So just remember that the shorter bolt goes to the inside. The longer bolt goes to the outside, holding the fan on the drive hub. Okay, so we've got all the bolts in the fan, and I'm going to tighten the fan up. I usually like to get all that installed, that way I can hold on to the fan and tighten the 6 bolts from the hub to the driven fan assembly, and then also the fan to the hub. The fan belt is still loose, as you'll see. Okay, that's because it's a variable fan drive, and so we don't have any hydraulic pressure applied to the fan drive until we start the engine and build up transmission system pressure. That's what drives the oil pressure to the fan drive, controlled by the engine temperature and or engine controller. Okay, and so the next step after we've installed and completed all of this, we have to bleed the air from the drive assembly. Okay, and there's a procedure for that, and so we're going to go walk through that procedure just a little bit. And I like to bleed the air from the fan drive at least 20 cycles. Okay, and what I mean by that is we'll apply pressure to the fan drive, turn the fan all the way on and all the way off about 20 times to ensure that we have all the air purged from the fan drive. Now, I've found in the past, and I strongly believe that we have a lot of premature fan drive seal failures because we don't do a good job of getting all the air bled out of the fan drive. So we're going to make sure that we get all of the air bled or purged from the fan drive. We're going to purge the air from the fan drive, and so in order to do that, we have to enter into what they call tech mode. Okay, and so the way we enter tech mode is we're going to turn the machine off, okay, and we're going to hold in on the settings tab button and the hitch lower set switch at the same time. We're going to hold in on those 2 buttons and start the tractor. If you notice, next to the addresses in the window, there is a T next to the controller. Okay, that means that we are now in tech mode. Okay, so we're going to scroll down and find the ECU engine controller and highlight it. Okay, we're going to hit this arrow. That'll take us into our addresses. We'll take the thumb wheel and go 1 click to the right. Shows that we have a code. Okay, we're going to hit the arrow button to enter that code. We have an ECU code of a 103.08. Okay, we're going to clear those codes. We're going to hit clear. It says done. We're going to hit done. Now it says none. Okay, we're going to scroll on down to ECU address 61. Okay, at address 61, that will allow us to turn the fan drive all the way on and all the way off by changing this first digit to a 1. Okay, and that will turn the fan all the way on and off. We're going to do that about 20 times to purge the air from the fan drive. Okay, so the way we're going to do that is we're going to hit enter. Okay, that highlighted that first number. Okay, we're going to hit enter again, change that to a 1, hit it again, then we're going to scroll over to the enter mode. Okay, we're going to enter. Okay, and that will turn the fan all the way on. Okay, and then if we scroll down to, I believe it is address 40, we'll see the actual fan speed. So the fan is now running 1891, 93 RPM. Okay, we'll go back to address 61, enter it, enter again, change that first digit to a 0, enter. Okay, we'll go look at our fan speed at address 40. Okay, turned our fan down. It's going down, and you don't have to go to address 40 every time. I just like to go there at least once or twice to make sure that I have fan RPM, and or if the fan is all the way on and turning all the way off. So we're gonna run that cycle about 20 times to purge the air from the fan drive. Okay guys, just checking for leaks here, making sure that everything looks good and everything looks fine. So Larry the Tractor Guy signing out.